For some time, UN atomic energy inspectors in Iran have suspected a covert facility for producing weapons-grade plutonium is active somewhere in the Minab area. Based on this information, US intelligence has discovered the hidden facility. While Washington will soon notify the UN Security Council of these findings, the processing plant is reportedly operating at an accelerated pace. It is feared that by the time punitive resolutions are enacted, Tehran will have produced enough plutonium for several nuclear warheads. An airstrike against this facility is out of consideration. Such an attack would spread nuclear contamination over a large area of the Gulf. There is only one option. The nuclear processing facility is a ferocious consumer of electricity, using over 90% of the power produced by the Minab Dam hydroelectric power plant. Targeting analysis reveals that a surgical strike at the dam's generator hall and electric power transfer building will put the power plant out of action for many months. Without this power, the nuclear processing facility will cease operation. F-16s from Al-Minhad will strike the valve shack, the structure that contains all of the valves controlling water flow through the dam and power plants, as well as the building housing the control center for the electric power generators. By knocking out both buildings without damaging the dam itself, power production will be halted without the risk of widespread flooding. Welcome to Al-Minhad Air Base, just outside Dubai, as you can see over there, and welcome aboard my F-16. As mentioned in the briefing, today's mission is a strike on a hydroelectric power plant in Iran, which is supplying power to a nuclear weapons research facility. So, we're going to get underway as quickly as we can here. This is the Turn Out the Lights mission, which is a mission which comes with the F-16 by default. But I have made two modifications to it, which I'll talk about a little bit once we're in the air, since we're just about ready to roll here. Let's run through the before takeoff checklist here. A link to this checklist will be in the description. Radar altimeter goes on. Landing light goes on. IFF to normal. Probe heat on. And we should be ready to go. I'm going to whack off the nose wheel steering once we are rolling. Alright, let's go. Airspeed's alive, nose wheel steering can go off. We'll rotate around 160 knots. Gently, so we don't smack the tail. And off she goes. We're very heavy today, so takes a little extra second. Gear up, out of burner, and we've got waypoint 1 called up. So I'll make that turn once we've got a little bit of altitude here. Climb out about 300 knots. So, the modification which I've made to this mission, you may have noticed, or may not have noticed, any call out from a wingman saying that he's rolling, and that's because I will be flying this as a singleton rather than a two-ship. The reason for this is very simple, that this is a dangerous mission and DCS wingmen are more of a liability than an asset. So, to that end, because in the original mission format it calls for each aircraft in the flight to strike one of the two targets, I have brought along two JDAMs instead of the designated laser-guided bombs. The idea being that I can strike both targets in a single pass that way, because the flight plan calls for an ingress into Iran at low altitude to avoid their early warning radar and then basically a pop-up attack. So lingering over the target would not be a good idea, since it's anticipated that once we are detected, an SA-10 site at Bandar Abbas will activate within 4 minutes, and an SA-2 site immediately adjacent to the target will activate within 6 to 8 minutes. And I intend to be long gone before that happens, so this would seem to be the better weapon for it. We do have a targeting pod along so that we can get a good view of the target prior to weapons release. It looks like the cloud ceiling is pretty hard at 8,000 feet here. We are designated to overfly the target at 8,000 feet, so we should be able to acquire it visually as long as we stay under the cloud layer. I'm going to be heading towards waypoint 1 and then 2 at 12,000 feet, and then between waypoints 2 and 3 as we cross the Gulf technically the Gulf of Oman on this side. We will drop down to very, very low for our ingress into Iran. So, coming through 11,500 feet, just getting ready to level off at 12,000. And I'll back off the throttle a little bit, since I'm going to try and maintain a power setting for maximum range while we're en route to save as much fuel as we can. Because once we're in Iranian airspace, we want to go as fast as we can so we can get out quickly before the air defenses activate. The other thing we have to worry about is Iranian fighters on alert to the west of the target. Again, I hope to be long gone before they can catch up with us, but in case we're not, we do have Dodge Flight, which will be on a cap station in the Gulf south of Iran. That's a flight of F-15s that can deal with any fighter threats while we're on our way out. So, bringing the power right back, I'll get the autopilot on and have it go for the designated steer point. And I'm aiming for an angle of attack of 6 degrees because that should be what gets us our maximum range at any given altitude or weapons load, more or less. Anyway, unfortunately, we don't have the cruise DED page in the DCS F-16 yet, but normally what you can do with that in either Falcon BMS or the real F-16 is punch in either maximum range or maximum endurance, and it will give you a speed to maintain that at your altitude and weapons load and all the other factors. And from testing it in Falcon BMS, it appears that you get best range at about 6 degrees AOA and best endurance at about 10 degrees. The difference being best range being maximum distance across the ground, best endurance being maximum time spent in the air, irrespective of distance covered, which are not the same speed in pretty much any given airplane. So, the only other thing I will do for now is get our weapons ready. And I'll actually configure this as I would like for when we're over the target, because I don't like the default settings for air-to-ground mode. I like to have my HSD on the left and my targeting pod on the right, so that they can be on separate pages. So we've got our GBU-31s ready, so those will be aligning. Now that we're leveled off, I'll actually turn my lights off, and then we'll recheck that when we fence in closer to the target. But I think that's about it for now, so I will come back probably as we're crossing the Gulf and getting ready to ingress into Iran. Alright, we're just about flying out over water now, passing over waypoint 2. So we are going to drop to the deck and fence in. So waypoint 3 is punched up. Head down through the clouds. And so for fence in, master arm on. Laser arm we don't need because we're using JDAMs. TGP is on. Leave that as is for now. And weapon is powered on. Verify that our lights are off. Alright. That's us good to go. So I'll briefly pop back out of air to ground again. There's Iran. Enemy coast ahead. Ah, yes, and there's the Musandam Peninsula of Oman and a bit of the UAE on the other side somewhere. Don't know exactly where the border is. Anyway, passing through 5,000. I'm painfully aware that human depth perception isn't great over water, so I'll make sure we level off in time. Turn the HUD brightness down just a little bit so it isn't shimmering. Passing 3,000 feet. Actually, I don't think my parametric altimeter is set quite correctly. What's the QNH? 2988. There, that's fixed. Now it correlates with the radar altimeter, which it should since we're over the sea. And flight plan calls for 250 feet AGL and 550 knots indicated. So, we will do that.
Altitude. Altitude.
Level off, and start pouring on the coal. Because that yellow threat ring you can see on the HSD down there is for the SA-10 SAM site at Bandar Abbas, which it's presumed will be active within 4 minutes of our detection by Iranian early warning radar. In principle, our flight plan, if we're this low, should be taking us through a gap in the early warning radar network. So, if all goes well, we won't have to worry about that being active until we're near the target. But, gotta be prepared for everything. Keep power coming up to get our speed increasing there. We're reaching our coast in point pretty soon. So steer point 4 is just for navigation, steer point 5 is the IP, and steer point 6 and 7 will be our targets. We'll actually want to drop on 7 first, just because of the way I had to set up the flight plan. It's the one that'll be closer to us, but we can figure that out. And just about passing inside the threat ring, theoretically now, but on the assumption that it isn't active. Plus, if it's sitting in Bandar Abbas, there should be a little bit of terrain between it and us, so for this low, in principle, the search radar shouldn't be able to see us. So, we hope for the best, and recheck everything over and over again. Countermeasures, yeah, I'll leave that set to manual for now. I wouldn't be surprised if there is some amount of a manpads threat over the target, so I'll make sure we're putting out some flares as we're heading over it, since if we're at 8,000 feet, we won't be quite high enough to be outside the threat envelope for it. Hell is that? Oh, little catamaran boat. Well, they can just go right ahead and not tell anyone about us. A few more boats over there too, and some ships in the Strait of Hormuz, which is to be expected, but we're definitely inside Iranian territorial waters now, so it's entirely possible that that pretty looking catamaran could have been an IRGC Boghamar that's currently radioing in our position. But hard to say. We are just about feet dry and approaching waypoint 3. And from there, the target isn't too far inland. So we'll just have to stay as low as we possibly can and get in and out as quick as we possibly can. Hello, boats. Please pay no attention to me. Alright. Colt 1-1. Feet dry.
Pull up.
No, I'm not going to do that, dear. I will pull up to avoid these power lines, though. I'm not quite brave enough to go under them at this speed. And we'll just clear this ridge line and drop back down. Waypoint 3 should be pretty much right on the other side of it.
Altitude. Altitude. Pull up.
Alright, 30 seconds to steer point 3. At which point we will make a left turn, and once we pass steer point 4, we'll pull up, climb to 8,000, and head for the IP. And that's close enough. We'll punch up waypoint 4, make our turn. And we'll punch up air to ground mode so that I get my HSD on the side that I want it on. Drop down. Stay as low as we can. Actually, I'll whack air to ground mode off since that symbology is crowding the HUD so much it's a bit disorienting. Alright, passing waypoint 4. Make sure we're on full mill power, and we will do our climb. And keep our speed as high as we possibly can, because you can see that yellow SA-2 threat ring there right next to the target. And presumably it will be active before too long. And we're starting to get some search radars picking us up. Well, that's to be expected, I suppose. Can I pick out where the target is visually yet? No, I think it's on the other side of that ridgeline. I'm actually going to use burner in this climb. We have a decent amount of fuel. Well, actually no, that should be enough. I got plenty of speed. Alright, now into air to ground mode and queue up my targeting pod. And we'll whack that into one of the infrared modes so that we can actually see. And 8,000, level off. 1.5 minutes to waypoint 5. Let's have another look out here, eh? Our target is right next to a dam. It might be just over there. And just keep her level. Actually, you know what? I'll leave this on CCD mode for now because it is decently well lit. We should be able to get decent eyes on target. Ooh, we actually had a little tiny bit of burner fed in for a bit there. Hopefully that didn't burn too much fuel, because fuel may be a problem with how low we have to fly and how fast we have to run for a lot of this mission. Viper's got short legs, even with these big old tanks on it. If you fly high and slow, you can go a long way, but for all things, there are limits. We'll certainly be returning to base at as high an altitude as we possibly can. Alright, passing waypoint 5. Whoops. I'll actually call up waypoint 7 since it's the closer target. And once we level out, I'll have a look through the targeting pod, and we'll verify that that is indeed our target. Alright, yep, there it is. The dam's right there. And that's the building. I'll wait until we're just a little bit inside the launch zone for the JDAM, just in case the wind carries it away, which has happened. And bombs away. Zero the cursor and call up. Uh-oh. SA-2's active. Call up waypoint 6. Verify that we are within range. Bombs away. And then call up waypoint 8 for egress. And let's drop down and get the hell out of here before that SAM site fires. Uh-oh. I'll try and look backwards to see if we can spot the bomb impacts, but that's not really a priority right now. There's one. I think that's 2. Alright. Get low. SAM launch. Once we get behind this ridgeline, we should be okay. Alright. We might be breaking some windows in this town here, but frankly, I don't give a damn. Approaching steer point 8. I'll whack us out of air to ground to declutter the HUD. 20 seconds, then we'll be making a right turn. Want to get feet wet as quick as we can, and then head back towards the UAE as quick as we can, because there are some nice Patriot sites there that can also shoot any fighters off our tail. Alright, so that's steer point 8. Punch up steer point 9, make our turn. And actually what I'm going to do now is call up AWACS and see if they've seen any Iranian fighters yet.
Request picture.
We might be too low to get a decent radio signal from them. Oh, actually, it would help if I called them on the right frequency. No, I think I did. I'll ask again just in case.
Colt 1-1. Request picture.
And we'll just keep a weather eye out. Only radar that has us in sight right now is AWACS, so in principle they should be able to communicate with us, but whatever. Hopefully we'll be okay. How's our fuel? Actually decent. Well, that's good. Should be pretty close to feet dry, probably just over a couple more of these ridge lines here. Alright. And once we're out over water, I'll stay low for a little bit and then climb. Keep my radar up and handy here just in case. And keep checking my tail. But the Iranian fighters would have a ways to come and they'd have to go very fast in order to catch me, so I'm not. I probably shouldn't say this out of superstition, but I'm not too worried. And there's the coast. And we'll just thump another town on our way past, but sue me. Alright. Colt 1-1 is feet dry. And passing steer point 9, I'll call up 10 for our egress and make a shallow right turn. There's another boat, for whom things will also be very loud, presumably. I think I'll climb once I'm outside the threat ring for the SA-10. I think that would make sense. They probably wouldn't be able to hit me on a cold heading at low altitude from this distance anyway, but you know, whatever keeps me off whatever keeps me off as many Iranian radars as possible is probably worth doing. Okay, let's get a picture from AWACS again, if we can.
1-1. Colt 1-1. Request picture.
I wonder if the comms are actually a little bit borked for this mission and the presets are wrong. Not entirely sure. What if I try whacking in the preset down here?
Magic 1-1. Colt 1-1. Request picture.
That or I wrote them down wrong on my set of notes here, which would be really embarrassing. In fact, why don't I check it in the briefing, because it's actually here. Oh, UHF 1. Okay, I had it written down as UHF 3. Well, hopefully we didn't miss anything important. How about now?
1-1. Colt 1-1. Request picture. Colt 1-1.
There we go. Picture clean. Okay, well, I think we've gotten away with it. I'm going to start our climb now. And let's see, steer point 10, and then 11 I think takes us right the way back to base, which is a fair ways away, so I'll climb up nice and high to save some fuel on the way back. But, fingers crossed, I think we're home free. Alright, we're just descending through the cloud layer here. Al Minhad is right over there. I'm just descending to 1500 feet AGL, and we're going to set up for a left-hand brake. And then we shall land. I already called the tower, and they've given us runway 27. So that should be about it. I'll actually whack that in as our course, though. Just as a reference when we're flying the pattern. So we want to approach at 1500 feet, 300 knots, make a pretty sharp left-hand brake over the field, onto left downwind, and come back in and land. All fairly simple really. The daytime visual pattern, since it's still light and the visibility is good enough. Otherwise we'd probably fly the ILS at nighttime. Alright, get ready to level off here. The field is slightly above sea level, so yeah, 1500 AGL is about 1700 MSL. Keep letting the speed come back. Goody goody. Yeah, I'll call and request landing once we've made the break. And coming back to 300 knots, we'll feed in just a little bit of power. It does not take much to maintain this speed. And power back just a little bit to get that 300. Make sure landing lights on and lights master is on. I did fence out on the way back, by the way, since that didn't make it into the record. I'll actually briefly check my checklist again. Yeah, nothing new under the sun there.
Check landing gear. Wind 299 at 3 meters per second. Runway 27.
And that is what counts as a landing clearance from the DCS AI. Have a look at Dubai over there. So the aesthetic value of this mission was tremendous, if nothing else. Okay, we're pretty much over the button, so power back to idle. Speed brakes out. And let speed come back. Turn 50 knots, gear down, speed brake in. Interesting. And we'll try and get a decent on-speed AOA of about 13 degrees here in the downwind, which we've probably actually already dropped a little bit below. So we want to roll out on 090 for our downwind. And we want to be descending as well. Alright, let that speed come back a little, and get on the trim. I don't see anyone down there. That call might actually have been for me because I was over the field. Default DCS ATC, as I say, leaves a bit to be desired and doesn't really seem to accommodate overhead brakes that well. And I'll keep speed up to about 200 knots for now, just to keep things moving along here. And that's pretty much at a quartering angle behind us now, so we can start our turn. To do a sort of rounded base to final. And without further ado, land. Our fuel state is surprisingly good. We've still got 5,000 pounds, so I guess I managed it pretty well on the way to and from, and that mitigated the amount of fuel burned over the target somewhat. Anyway, keep looking at the field to see if we need to sharpen the turn at all. I'd like to roll out lined up with the runway, but I haven't flown that many overhead patterns in the F-16 lately, so I make no guarantees. In fact, I think I'm going to blow through it just a little bit. Yeah, keep coming around, keep coming around. Actually, this could be pretty good. Blew through it ever so slightly. But we can roll out onto a 3-degree glide slope pretty much perfectly. And then let the speed come back so that we can get properly on speed to land. It's a fairly long runway, but we might as well be at the proper landing speed, because we don't need to use that much of it, and good to save the landing gear as well. Little low, ease it up a bit, and I can back off the power a little bit here so that we actually get on speed. There we go.
Code 1-1. Check landing gear. Wind 299.
There we go.
At 3 meters per second.
Now I can let that nose down a little bit and put those 3-degree markers pretty much right on the numbers, since we'll be touching down a little bit beyond where that indicates, because we will be flaring. If this were an F-18, we would not be flaring, because the thing has such gigantic flaps that we'd float from here to Syria if you flared in the F-18. Actually, no, we wouldn't. We would stall and crash into Dubai, but anyway, see what we can do with this. Reasonably soft. Hold the nose up at about 10 degrees so that we aero brake to save our actual brakes from any undue wear, and nose comes down, then we can get on the brakes and get ready to vacate. We're probably going to miss this taxiway here, but we'll see. The brakes in the F-16 are not fantastic. Actually, I think we're going to make that. Okay. Speed brake in. After landing, yep, speed brake in. Give me my nose wheel steering. Projection sheet safe. And I'll just roll to a stop once we're clear here so I can run through my after landing items. And I believe our ramp is over there. Alright, seat safe, probe heat off. All sort of ECM stuff can go off, including our countermeasures. That's all good. IFF to standby, and we can whack this over to the taxi light. And we'll taxi in. And so I'm kind of inclined to play around with the format for these missions. I omitted the startup this time, but I think I'll include the taxi in, but I'm quite happy to hear any input that anyone might have as to whether or not it's worth including things like full startups and shutdowns at the beginning and ends of missions, if anyone actually wants to see that. So I'll try and strike a balance with this one. And I see a Predator drone and an Mi-26. There is some interesting collection of airplanes here. And I see some Gamblers F-16s, so yeah, we can go right back to where we started. Some more UAVs. Kind of taxiing like a bat out of hell, but it's a long taxi, so whatever. And I'll just get the shutdown checklist ready. Yep. And we'll turn in here. Actually, no, we won't, because we're going kind of fast. We'll go for the next one at the other end. And let's see if I can figure out these cryptic taxi lines here in order to actually get where I want to be without smacking into any of these start carts or any of the other vehicles that are here. Let's hang a right here and try to be lined up with the other Vipers on the ramp-ish. And roll to a halt. Pretty much in the right spot. Alright, and that's mission complete. We'll whack the parking brake on, pull up the checklist, So, hardpoint, radar, and radar altimeter can go off. All of our avionics, mids, and inertial navigation system can go off. I'll recage the backup ADI, which is a slightly tricky, fiddly process. Oh, okay, well, I guess we won't be seeing the shutdown because that has decided to end the mission for me. Well, in that case, I hope it has been at least vaguely entertaining to watch, and I'm always quite happy to hear any input as to any future content that anyone might like to see in DCS or IL-2 or any one of a number of other things. But I think that's going to be about it. So, toodles.